What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Dogs Podcast. As you can see, I got my mic set up here. Got the mic stand. We're gonna get podcasty in here, right? Um, Talking Dogs Podcast, for those of you that are just tuning in, is me just kind of giving my unfiltered opinion about different goings on within the coonhound world and within the coonhound community. Um, we've had one guest on the podcast so far. Um, Not really got a lot of time to have a lot of guests, so I'm just going to solo podcast for now. I am been reaching out to Boog to get him back on the podcast. But today's episode, I kind of just want to talk about a few things. Number one, I want to talk about Facebook groups. Okay, so Facebook groups can be a huge help, right? If you find the right Facebook group to get a hold of and people in there have the right information and the right kind of attitude and the right kind of outlook, when it comes down to opening up this sealed book that we call training, okay? I know that I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've seen it, I've heard it, you hear it in conversations. There's a lot of keep it to myself so the other guy don't beat me, right? That in my channel, I believe, is one of the few channels I've blew the lid off of so many training techniques that a lot of guys just keep to themselves and they don't want to share or they don't want to talk about it, or you'll never hear them bring it up, right? Um, and it's a lot to do with competition, hunting world, and it's a lot to do with people trash talking each other, right? So trash talking doesn't go very far. It never gets anybody anywhere. So if you're in a Facebook group and all you see is guys dogging other guys out, talking trash on their dogs, or just wanting to bicker back and forth and have issues all the time, that's not the group that you want to be in. There is groups out there. I came across one today, and I actually enjoyed the content on that. And I believe that was called Plus Points Training Facebook group. In there, he just has posts of like these paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of giving his opinion. It's kind of like a blog or a forum kind of set up on that Facebook group to where he goes in there and gives his honest opinions about things. Do I agree with every single thing that I read? No. Do I disagree with everything that I read? No, I don't. And I think that's where we have to start, and that's where we have to begin, is we have to start opening our minds and opening our horizons and listening to guys and listening to their logic. Now, that's another thing that a lot of guys will do. They will just give you advice, they'll just tell you what to do, and they will not give you any logic behind it. They won't give you any reasoning for this. They won't give you any for instances of when they've had this happen and then done this and fixed that problem. There's a lot of things going around, right? Like on that particular Facebook group, he has a post talking about the mystical coon, okay, where it just will not go up. There's a lot of reasons for this, and the biggest reason is going to be your dog, number one, okay? Now, he made a lot of sense in there, but also I was kind of like, you're looking over a couple things here. You're looking over the fact that it's not only the dog's ability that puts coons up a tree, it is the coon. And coons are not just some slouch. They're not. I would almost really rather have to deal with a dog attack than a coon attack. That's just my personal preference. The things that I've seen coons do and the things that I've seen coons go through and still be vicious and still be willing to fight, I wouldn't wish them on my worst nightmare or my worst enemy, right? And I think a lot of people understand that. A lot of people get that, and a lot of people have seen that. And if we get stuck in this world to where we never witness like the true viciousness, right? The true viciousness of these animals, it's really easy to get kind of like a uh, uh, um, like a kind of like a false hooded idea behind them. I myself have witnessed with my own eyes one coon that was shot multiple times, and I mean like 10 times, walk out of a tree and put a whooping on four dogs. Okay, now if you want to say that that's the mystical coon, or no, this is what these dogs deal with, right? You're dealing with coons that will drown your dogs. You're dealing with coons that will rip your dog's ears off, bite their cheeks off, and just do anything and everything they can. And a lot of them want to turn and fight. They want to turn and fight your dog. They don't want to go up a tree because in a coon's brain, they're going to whoop anything, and they're just about right. They're just about right. I'm telling you right now, I've seen bullets, so many bullets put in a coon that you think that the coon was whooping the gun. So there's that aspect of this to where coons have their own agenda, and when you get a dog to come in there, it takes a special kind of dog to put a coon in a position to where it's going to turn tail and run, and it takes another special kind of dog to get the coon to actually go ahead and go up the tree. And I think this is where we run into a lot of issues when we're talking about these younger dogs, okay? Because for one, I've witnessed it myself when training dogs. Some dogs, when you cut a coon out and you cut the dog behind it, what they'll do is as soon as that coon goes to go up the tree, they'll just rip it off the tree and throw it on the ground, and the coon will go back up and they'll rip it off the tree and throw it on the ground, and they'll just sit there and play this little wonky game in perpetuity, or whatever you want to call it, indefinitely, and they'll just throw the coon off the tree, back up, wait for it to go back up, throw it off the tree, back up, wait for it to go back up. And then you wonder why your dog seems like it's pilfering around so long. Well, maybe it's not pilfering around, right? Maybe it is just not allowing the coon to go up the tree. I've seen this happen. And also, another thing that we have to keep in mind here is I've also, walked in on dogs that just were bait up on the ground with a coon on the ground, and the coon just wasn't given any ground, right? The coon wasn't backing up. The coon wasn't turning tail and running. The coon was stayed right in a little spot and wanted to sit there and fight them dogs off. So we have that aspect of it too, right? So we have these coons with these different mentalities and the different ways that they go. And a good dog should go in there and give that coon a piece of its mind, just enough for that coon to want to go up a tree, and let it go up the tree and sit there and tree it. Some dogs don't want them to go up the trees. Some dogs want to fight them on the ground. Some dogs aren't, aggressive enough to push a coon off of wherever it's at to get it to running. There's a lot of things that can happen. Another thing, and I've witnessed with my own two eyes too, is I've witnessed four dogs pushing one coon that we cut out, and the coon is just slicking them up, just right there watching them get slicked. Okay, so we're standing in, ankle deep water out in the swamp, and we got four dogs pushing track all around us, all around us, all around us. Could not figure this thing out. And me and the guy are sitting around looking around like, that coon's got to be right here somewhere, man. And sure enough, that coon just, I heard footsteps in the water behind us real quiet like, and we turned around and shined, and there that coon was, just tiptoeing through the ankle deep water, going as slow as it possibly could. But what it had done is it had laid down such a hard track through, thickets and brush, that the dogs weren't right on it. And then now the coon's just sitting there going, I don't have to do anything. They're gonna follow me from back there. They're stuck. They think I'm over there. I'm just gonna pilfer around, go back to doing what I'm doing. And you can throw all this blame on the dog. Like, the dog doesn't know how to work out a track. The dog can't figure its stuff out. It's not aggressive enough. It's too dumb to get him to go up. We can look at it that way, but we can also look at it of the way that coon is a extremely smart coon, right? Um, and that's why it's a huge benefit to have a smart dog, a dog that has sense, a dog that has brains, a dog that can figure out problems Because if we have a coon that knows, oh, if I just bust a loop right here, if I just jump through this hole in this tree and go out the back end of it, they'll stay right there, and I'm just off here walking, right? The coons know this stuff. They're out there, they're getting chased all the time by all kinds of things, and you always get into a patch of woods, especially. This is why I recommend switching patches of woods for young dogs when they first get started. Is you'll get a dog to get out there and strike up, and it'll run a track and run a track and run a track. But what is the issue is you have a dog that's very inexperienced up against a coon that's very experienced. And the coon knows all the tricks. It knows all the places to go and hide. It knows all the places to lose the dogs. It knows all this stuff. And I will just put this little sprinkle right on top of here is when we aren't shooting these coons, okay? So when we aren't shooting these coons, and we just ram them into a patch of woods and we're not shooting them, every time that dog trees that coon it doesn't get shot, the smarter that coon is going to get and the more wise that coon is going to get to the dog and how the dog operates. Maybe it knows, well, when I ran last time, I went right here and I got a little bit of relief for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to hit that. And then, well, the third time that he ran me, I hit this little fence line right here and he gave me about 10 minutes of relief. And then what you have is you have a coon that as soon as it hears burp, it knows, okay, come out of the tree, or get off of whatever I'm doing. I'm going to hit that little patch of woods. I'm going to hit that little briar thicket. I'm going to hit that fence. I'm going to jump up this half tree. I'm going to spike this tree. And before you know it, that coon has peeled out, an hour or more of tricks on that coon, on that dog, and then you have an hour or more for that dog even catches up to that coon, and maybe the coon decided to go up, maybe it decided to run the marathon again. So the mystical coon thing, this is definitely something, man. There's something to that, and dogs running coons for hours and hours and hours, it happens. It happens. It happens, and you wouldn't never think it, like you really would never think it. And like you said in that post on that Facebook group, you have a dog that is good within 20-30 minutes. That is what you're after, right? This is our whole totality of what we really want, and a really good dog will be good within that amount of time. A really exceptional dog will be good within even faster amounts of time. And when we have a dog that is trained not to run trash, we have a dog that has seen all these coons, and we don't know exactly what the dog's doing out there. The dog could get out there, hit a track, and go, okay, this guy's a trickster. Let me pick a different one. I'm going to go on this one, and we just don't know what they do or how they decide which coons are what. Obviously, hot tracks, cold tracks, etc. Is definitely goes a lot into it. But at the end of the day, the dog's out there on its own, making its own decisions. And some dogs are really good at making choices, and other dogs are just really poor at making choices. And it's just kind of like I've seen, let's say you have a fence, right? You have a fence line. You can cut two dogs on that fence line, and one dog will sit there and try to go through the fence and come back through the fence and go through the fence and come back to this side and go back to that side and go back to this side and go back to that side, right? And then you have the other dog that'll go, oh, he's on the fence. Let me just blow down this fence until I pick him up again, and then we'll figure out what side he's on once I start not smelling him pushing on, right? So then you have the one dog that is going to follow every single thing that dog does, and then you have another dog that is going to skip. It's going to go, oh, I know what he did. Oh, I know what he did. Oh, I know what he did. Those are the dogs that are going to really get you in there, and they're going to really, put you under a lot of coons, and a lot of coons that probably are mystical coons, and they're going to get them figured out. Let's talk about a little bit. This has a lot to do with breeding dogs, right? This is a lot to do with breeding dogs, and I've been looking, and I've been seeing a lot of posts in the Facebook groups. These guys aren't playing these days, and applaud to you, okay? I have been seeing some phenomenal posts from guys. I want a dog that does it. I want a dog that is bred like this. I want it to bark this way. I want it to trail this way. I want it to track this way. I want it to tree this way. I want this, and this. If you can't give me that, I don't want it. Well, I applaud you for that, because if you know what you want in a dog and you get exactly what you want out of a dog, you're going to have such a better time, and you're going to tree the kind of coons that you like to tree. You're going to get in the woods that you like to get into, and you're going to listen to the type of dog that you like to listen to. And one specifically that I remember reading just here today was the guy wanted a dog that, he wanted a dog that would ball on a cold track, ball half chop on a medium track, and just straight chop on a hot track. And I'll tell you this right now, I've been in the woods with dogs like that, and there's nothing better than listening to the dogs that run that way. I have only ever experienced the one dog that ran this way, and it was a black and tan dog, but you could tell right off immediately, brr, it's running a cold one, and then you can kind of hear it warm it up as it pushes it through the woods. And by the time it got that track real hot, that dog might as well be just burning a hole in the woods with a chop, just bow, 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 just tearing it up. And when it treed, hit a crazy locate, and I really enjoyed just listening to that dog. If you have a dog that you enjoy the mouth, hear the way that that dog sounds, you're gonna love your dog even that much more. I cannot stand to be in the woods with a dog that I don't like the sound of. For one, some dogs are real screechy or real super quiet. No, I don't like extremely loud dogs either, and I don't like dogs that like to bawl too much. I think my ear has a very particular type of sound in dog that I like. And number one, first and foremost, some dogs will just not work for you because of the way that they sound. You won't be able to hear them. You won't be able to call them right. You won't be able to get them figured out in any type of fashion. And you're just going to be having them like a GPS dog. Oh, the GPS told me he got it done. Let's go in there. Oh, the GPS told me he's barking. Let's go in there. And I like a dog that has a mouth on it that you can hear from a good distance. I like a dog that you can tell when it's rolling over on track. Sometimes I don't really care if they chop or I would prefer them to chop on track, but balling too much, I don't care for a dog that balls too much. I really don't. I like a chop mouth dog. I like a dog that'll hit a locate, right? And I like a dog that'll hit a big locate. I don't like, man, was that a locate? No, I want a stone cold solid locate out of you, and then I want you to roll straight into chopping that tree down. And when we're pushing track, I want your mouth should be distinct enough that I can tell when I hear you which direction that you're facing and which direction that you're running. Because some dogs are just loud for being loud, right? You can hear them the same here as you can hear them there. You can't tell if they're going away from you or coming to you once they get far enough away from you. I like to be able to have a dog that's got a real good directional mouth on it. And if you haven't hunted with multiple different dogs and you haven't been around a lot of dogs, you might not understand what I'm saying. And if you really enjoy listening to the sound of a dog, you can be able to tell what I'm talking about. Their mouth is used very directionally, and you can tell it. And they're not ear busting loud, because the ear busting loud dog doesn't really do much good but to aggravate you. A dog that is ear busting loud is only good if it's going to run 400 miles a tree coon, right? We don't need no ear drum busting dog that's only going to be pushing track 200-300 yards and treeing up. They're all mouth for not a whole lot of good reasons. Those really loudmouth dogs are going to be dogs that we would prefer to have a deep hunting dog. And that's me too. I don't prefer a deep hunting dog. I prefer a dog to hunt a lot closer. I don't like walking hundreds of miles in the dang woods to get a coon. I really don't. And the faster they get them up, the faster they tree, the closer they are to you, the better they are anyway. So it's just kind of like shake it out, man. You can run, a mile and a half in 5 minutes flat and tree a coon, good for you. But if you can run 200 yards in 5 minutes flat and tree a coon, I think that's much better for me. Same amount of time, just quarter of the distance. Okay, some other things. I think I'm gonna wrap that up on the Facebook group stuff. There has been a lot of good stuff going around on the Facebook groups. Don't get me wrong. And if you are whatever breed of dog that you're running or interested in, or whatever bloodlines that you're interested in, there's a Facebook group for you out there. Just get in there and add yourself to every single solitary one that you can see or think of or might be related to what you're thinking. Um, let's go and let's talk to a little bit about some of these bloodlines that I was interested in. Okay, so I want to tell you guys a little bit about the bloodlines that I was interested in, and I still am kind of fond of because some of them I did get a hold of. Number one is the Jet dogs. Okay, so Jet blue dogs. As you guys on the episode one when I was with talking with Bug had some dealings and doings with Jeff Teague and those people who had the Jet dogs, and the Jet dogs to me are kind of become a classic coon, a classic blue dog, and a really good bred classic blue dog. And I know the Jet stuff comes out of the hammer bred stuff, but to me, I think that there's a lot of difference in the Jet dogs these days, and what, like, if you've seen a Jet dog and you've seen a hammer dog, they're a lot different, right? Because the Jet dogs have had a lot of work put into them. The Jet dogs have been some of the absolute loudest dogs that I have ever been in the woods with. They have been some of the most accurate dogs that I've ever been in the woods with, and they have been some of the most stay put tree dogs that I've ever been in the woods with. So Jet dogs are, I really like that bloodline of dogs. With that comes you have a dog that is gonna bust your eardrums, man. Probably bust your eardrums from a mile and a half away. That's how loud a lot of them dogs are. I like the way they look. I like the way that they're built. I like the way they run. They're fast. They're got a lot of drive in them, a lot of grit. They're just really good. And shout out to those who have procured and carried that along the way. I know Debbie Hovis is somebody who has those dogs now. Um, but Ed Mead did quite a bit of work, and that's going to last on forever. Some other dog bloodlines that I was interested in was I was lipper stuff, stylish. I never really got into the stylish stuff too much. I think I could be just sorely mistaken, but I feel like the Walker dog stuff. I like blanket back walkers. And I feel like a lot of them stylish dogs are more tricolor, got more brown in them and stuff. I could be just really mistaken. I could just be really mistaken. So don't take that to heart. That's just what I've seen, and what kind of I've been dealt with, and like Schooner River, and that's probably the same as stylish stuff. But that's just some of the bloodlines that I did have, as some dogs out of some Schooner River stuff, some Lipper stuff. The Lipper stuff, give or take, but Sac and River, Schooner River, um, just any good old Walker dog that's gonna throw some good blanket backs. I just I think the blanket back Walker dogs should be onto their own. That's my personal opinion. I don't know what it is like, but I have been in the woods with lots of Walker dogs, and to me, I feel like the blanket back dogs just get it done different. They really do get it done different, and you guys can drop a comment down there. Let me know if I'm just blowing smoke or not, but it might just be because I have a bias towards that color scheme on a Walker dog, but I really appreciate a good blanket back dog that gets her done right. Some other stuff that I was looking into, I kind of stumbled across Jim Wales over here in Merrill. He has hammerbred and Smoky River bred stuff. Now, for me personally, I have always, in the coon hunting world, I have always shied off of the big game bred hounds, okay? I've always shied off of those because that's all that you ever hear. That's what you read. That's what you see. Is that the big bred blue dog, the big game bred blue dogs typically start late, right? You have more of a chance of them starting super late than your actual, coon hunting bloodlines of these dogs. Now I know hammerbred dogs are big to do in the coon hunting world, and I also know that Smoky River dogs are widely used and have a lot to do with big game hunting. Um, with that, what I really appreciated about that bloodline, excuse me, about that bloodline that Jim has developed over the past however many years, is that number one, he wasn't somebody just throwing dogs together and saying, I made a bloodline. No, he knows his blood. He knows what his dogs do. He has any bit of information. He knows a lot of it off the top of his head. He has all the papers and paperwork and things like that to keep everything with what he's saying, that he's got it to back it up. These them dogs down there per se, um, for me in particular, they checked a lot of boxes of what I look for in a dog, but what I didn't really care for out of that blood is there's some things like would not strike a cold coon. Okay, that could be my dog personally. He wouldn't strike a cold one. He would just silent track tree up. Okay, which it was good. He was on cold stuff and he still got it figured out. So we had a dog that would tree up cold, and but he would not make a peep on track if it was a cold track. We had a dog that when he ran a medium uh, track, it just kind of kept it right here. And what I didn't really care for about that is if he got onto like a medium hot coon, he would speed up and then he'd slow way down, and he'd speed up and he'd slow way down, and he'd speed up and he'd slow way down, and he'd speed up and he'd slow way down, and he would get stuck in this kind of, I'm trailing, oh, I might have found it, I'm trailing, I might have found it, I'm trailing, I might have found it. And it just took him forever to kind of get those medium tracks worked out. The hot ones, he'd burn them up, slam up a tree, no problem. But I'm not going to base his whole bloodline and his whole breeding down there based off a dog that I had for, in the grand scheme of things, for a very brief period in his coon hunting career. Looked very good, got it done very fast. Very surprising for a dog his age. And he started pretty early. It just kind of clicked, and I would say some of that blood down there, I kind of got interested into it. Um, but when we have dogs that have been line bred onto their own, we can say that they're hammer, we can say that they're Smoky River. But at the end of the day, if somebody has taken a hammer dog and Smoky River blood and they've mixed it back and forth and whatever dogs they have for 40 or 50 years, that dog is no longer a Smoky bred or a Smoky River or a hammer bred dog. That is that person's blood, and that's definitely what he has. He has isolated something down there, and you have to appreciate that at whatever stage that you think. You have to appreciate somebody who has taken the time to hand pick and breed back and forth and gain, good stuff. So some other good blood that I was, interested in. I ended up getting a dog off it, and I was not disappointed out of it. I was actually, kind of impressed with a lot of the things. Other things, I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be something that we work on. But at the end of the day, pretty good stuff. Another one that I was this close, man, I was that close to going over to Pennsylvania and picking up a puppy. I had to talk to the guy, and I had it all lined up. And right at the very last second, he said he decided to keep the puppy that I was going to purchase. But I was going to go pick up a heat seeker dog uh, from the English dog. So heat seeker, I kind of stumbled across it, like I really did, after I got rid of Cash, because Cash posed a lot of issues for me here where I live. Number one, he was huge. He was way bigger than probably any coon dog that I ever had. Now, when I went and looked at his parents, I didn't think that he was going to be a big dog. I really didn't, but it turned out he was a pretty big dog. He was real tall, and he was just huge for what I was used to running and having and stuff. And then I'm in a trailer park, so there's that. A huge dog in the trailer park. Trying to have him in the trailer, it was just a problem there on just his sheer size. Another thing is that he was so god awful loud. He was just so loud, which is very good. Which I really liked his mouth, and I really liked the way that he sounded. But he was just so loud here in this trailer park. I mean, you could probably hear him all the way down to the other end of this place. And we can't keep wraps on our dogs all the time. And I would have to cut my days short and get home and make sure he wasn't barking. And it just became like a full total task to keep up on him and make sure that he wasn't pestering other people, because he didn't really bother me much, but I try to be respectful and respect my neighbors and things like that. And I didn't want him aggravating the neighbors' brains out and stuff. And he was just very, very loud. And he was also a dog that was extremely smart. One of the smartest dogs that I've ever been around. Like, just flat out a smart dog. He knew when to bark, when it would aggravate you the most. He had his internal clock was perfect. He was 15 minutes early on everything. I'm gonna bark 15 minutes before you come and feed me. I'm gonna bark 15 minutes before you come and let me out. He was gonna let you know you're not gonna slip up. You're not gonna follow me up. You're not gonna do me dirty, man. You're gonna get me out. You're gonna get me outside. You're gonna get me fed. You're gonna get me back in the house on time. You ain't slacking. So he never let the pressure up in that, which I really appreciated that fact about that dog. But anyways, let's get back into the heat seeker stuff. So after I got rid of Cash and I had the channel rolling for a while, I kind of felt like I kind of felt pretty ashamed of myself for not being able to follow through the way that I wanted to with him, and having the channel going off of content that he produced. He's the one that went out there and treated those coons. He's the one that really made me think I got something here that I can videotape and put on YouTube and things like that. But he went to where he needed to be. He went to a place to where he's out in the country. He's got a lot of property to run. He's got somebody that's going to hunt him, and it's things like that. But the heat seeker stuff, I stumbled up on that because, like I said, I was feeling pretty bad for myself for getting rid of the dog and not having anything to show you guys, for one, and not having anything to do on YouTube. And I knew two things. I wanted to find a female, and I wanted to find a small dog, right? I wanted to find a smaller bred um, dog. And then after I was like, okay, well, I gave the blue dog stuff a shake again. I didn't want to get back into the walker stuff. Nothing against the walker dogs, but at these days, I've been out of it for so long that I couldn't even really pin down a good place to start for some good walker dog stuff. And then, the walker dogs, they're so overbred, and we have so many people throwing their hat in the ring breeding dogs that you really don't know what you're gonna get when you go buy a walker dog. Like, you don't know unless you're getting specific bloodline stuff. But if we're just buying dogs from somebody, oh, I had these two dogs, I bred them together, blah blah blah. When we go grab these dogs, we don't know what we're getting out of the walker dog stuff, and we don't know what to expect. And that's just kind of a sad fact. Everybody knows it. They're overbred. They're everywhere. Everybody's got Walker dogs. And then you have Walker dogs that have kind of been bifurcated off into multiple kind of little subsets of these are bred to run, these are bred to tree, these are bred to track, these are bred to do this. And then that instance, there's so many of them that when you do run across these dogs that are bred more for running, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a dog that's going to run its dang legs off, right? You're going to get these dogs that probably never tree up. They're just built for running. And we get this kind of thing. So I wanted to stay away from the Walker dog stuff. And then I was like, maybe I'll try the English dog stuff. I like English dogs, and I've owned an English dog. The English dog that I owned, I got from my brother. I thought he was absolutely the absolute most ugly English dog I've ever laid eyes on, in my personal opinion. But that's what my point is that I'm getting at is I like a specific look on a English dog. If they don't look a specific way, I don't care for them. And that's just my personal opinion. You guys can have your own opinions, and I'm not going to knock you on it because everybody's got their own taste and preference. But for me specifically, if an English dog don't look a specific way, they're dog ugly to me. But I come across a couple English groups, and I posted in there, what people are throwing a smaller dog. I want to exceptionally smaller dog. I want a tiny coonhound. It'd suit me better here on a house. I wanted the female stuff because for one, we have a couple house dogs from other females, and they come in heat, and Cash was just so horrible when it came down to dealing with that whole thing. So I was like, I'm going female this time, and I wanted a good meat dog that I can just go out here and tree any and everything and just knock whatever down. Don't matter, don't care. That way I don't not on this time crunch, not on this time restriction, like trying to make it to the woods at 4 o'clock in the morning before sunrise and tree some coons. I would dog and dump day, night, afternoon, mid, whatever the case may be, and just shoot whatever it trees. So I was like, I wouldn't mind having me a little tiny English dog that was gonna tree up and do everything. And then somebody had mentioned they didn't mention the heat seeker blood. What they did is they mentioned somebody name, and I went and checked them out, and they had the heat seeker stuff. And then I started getting into the heat seeker stuff. I hear a lot of good things about the heat seeker dogs. But what ended up happening is when that guy pulled that pup on me, I just flipped the script and went and got Tilly. Tilly is a small dog. She is a white and red dog. She is going to be a tree dog, and if I so want, I can make her a meat dog. But I have the added benefit of Tilly is not a excessively loud dog. She is not a huge dog. She's actually a very small dog, and I kind of just let my hand down to the squirrel dog and stuff, and it just seemed to make a lot more sense. And I just went down there and got her. So that's some good blood that I think personally that I would look for. If I was into the squirrel dog and blood stuff, I was always interested in the Barger stock dogs. And that's about all I known about squirrel dogs. So you have to forgive me, squirrel hunter guys. Let me know down there in the comments what your favorite bloodline of dogs is. Okay, so finding your line, finding a line of dogs that you'd like to hunt. We have to start narrowing things down, and we have to keep our options open, and we have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of mulling things over when we are looking for a bloodline of dogs that we want to hunt. Okay, number one, I would start by I am okay with this breed of dogs. Okay, I would take a English, I would take a Walker, I'd take a Blue Tick, I'd take a Black and Tan, a Catahoula, I'd take a Plot Hound. We have to narrow it down. That's the fastest way to narrow it down. And then we would narrow it down there and say, okay, I would either want, let's just say, I would either want a Black and Tan or a Catahoula dog. Don't know very much about Black and Tan blood or Catahoula blood myself, but let's just say those are the two dogs we pick. So what we're going to do is then we're going to decide what we're going to use the dog for. Are we going to pleasure hunt this dog? Is that all we're gonna do? Get him out a night or two a week and tree some coons? Don't really care if we do. Don't really care if we don't. Just got something to do and just get out there and have a good time. Are we gonna comp hunt this dog? Are we gonna, plan on getting this dog up and working it up and getting it, becoming a stud dog and start studding dogs out? This is all the stuff that we want to kind of float in our brain and get this kind of sorted and figured in our brain before we just go, oh, dog, dog, dog. Let me just grab whatever's out there. Because you're going to have a better time at the end of the day when you get something that you're informed about. So then we would start adding ourselves in Facebook groups, and we will start Googling. Google your hearts out, read the forums, and get in there. And if you come across the bloodline, let's say, oh, I'm on the Vaughn stuff. Let me look. What are the Vaughn dogs known for? Getting the Facebook forums, or getting the forums on, I believe it's like Coon Hunter forums or something like that, Night Hunter forums. You can get in there, and people probably already posed this question and had it answered. What are these dogs about? How long these dogs been around? What are they bred like? What are they bred for? Have they done a lot in the comp world? Have they done this? Have they done that? And we just gather all these tidbits of information. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll have a mindset of I want this, and then you'll go research this, and then while you're researching it, you'll hear, oh well, this actually sounds more like what I want, and you divert over to this blood, and then you get in reading about that, and you go, oh well, this actually seems more down the rabbit hole of what I want, and then eventually you will find your way to blood that you like everything you hear about it. You'll find your way to people that you like everything you hear about them, breeders that you think are well to do and right up your alley, and then you'll start looking for people that have that blood, people that breed those dogs, and you'll catch a hold of you a dog that for one, you know without a doubt that this is the bloodline that you want to give a crack. You don't want to know for two that uh, anything that comes our way off that dog that we weren't expecting, it's our own fault. We can't have anybody else to blame for it. So there's a real kind of gratification in that sense of these are my failures, they're nobody else's. Okay, so when we're informed and we know what we want, then we have a good sense of that, right? And I think I kind of said it on the whole entire podcast throughout is that, breeding makes a difference. The breeding of your dog makes a gigantic difference. It can make all the difference in the world. It really can. And it doesn't matter, right? If we have people that we know that have dogs and they've bred dogs for a long time, but maybe they don't do anything in the comp world, right? Maybe they've never put a title on a dog, maybe they never comp hunted at one time, but they've been breeding these dogs for years and years and years. And we come across them and we go, I like that stuff. I like those dogs. They look good. They're consistent. They throw, these colors, and we just have all these things that we need to look at. And breeding makes all the difference in the world. And when we can understand breeding the way that we should understand breeding and look at breeding logically, I think that, we can make better informed decisions, and understanding the breeding. And is this a scatterbred dog, meaning that it's all different lines, it's all mixed up, there's no line breeding at all, it's just it's kind of like throwing mud at the wall, pow. We don't know what we got in that dog. Or we have a dog that's extremely well line bred. Like the line bred stuff is what you want, but you want to pick the right line, right? Because we can go, I want this out of a dog, and this is what I'm going to accept. And then we go buy this line of dogs, and it's totally opposite of this. But it's absolutely perfect for what it was bred for, right? What it was line bred for. So knowing our breeding and understand what they're bred for and that kind of thing makes a whole lot of sense, and it will get you a lot farther. This podcast, let me know if you guys like this podcast, if you're listening. And I'll tell you what, man, I really appreciate you guys coming in and showing support to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. It all is appreciated. And I'm going to wrap this one up. This one is working on, quite a long time for a solo podcast. I actually wrote up some subjects to talk about this one to keep me on track, and I think I did a pretty good job of covering everything that I wanted to cover. But with that being said, guys, keep them treed.